All right, ladies and gentlemen. I did say we were going to take a bit of a break from gaming for a bit, given that we are done with Donkey Kong Bonanza. Figured this would be a perfect opportunity for us to have a nice chat about stuff, which I tend to do quite often. And so I just wanted to make sure that everything was on the up and up because I was messing with OBS so I can learn some new things and also mess with my Stream Deck as well so things can run a bit more smoothly, you know, going forward into the future. But let's get started. Mihai! Let's begin, shall we? Yo, peoples! Qushu92 here. Welcome to Gaming Memories with me. Now, I had come up with this idea back when me and Kitty were talking because it was like I think it was something that I brought up when I was playing Donkey Kong or another game recently. And I thought, what would be a good topic to talk about? And it would essentially. Sorry. My table's here off to the side because I had like a brunch. Hold on. Let me move it out of the way so it's not obstructive. All right. We're good. We're good now. Sorry about that. Yo, hi Dragon, good to see you. So, the topic for discussion for today is gaming memories and talking about, not just recent gaming stuff, but gaming stuff from the past, including games and systems and things about gaming some of you may not be privy to due to, age. Didn't even notice the table? But I just wanted to move it out of the way. But some things that many of you may not have really interacted with when you were younger, depending on your age group. Don't worry about telling me. First time seeing the Lego Infinity Gauntlet, I mean, it's been there for a minute. I remember being on stream building this thing for you guys. I didn't do the Lego the Batman Batmobile on stream because it was simply that many pieces and it took me a couple of days to build. But today we're going to be discussing gaming memories. What are your fondest memories from gaming? What gaming memory stuck with you the most? And different aspects of gaming that we had that we no longer have, such as, old gaming TV shows like Attack of the Show and G4 TV and X Play and Cheat with Kristen Holt or Kristen Adams now. So there's a lot of the concept of cheat codes in games. There's a lot of things to discuss. Another thing that was that Kitty wanted me to do, simply because she's going to be busy, so she's not going to be able to tune in to everything that happens here today. One of the things that she wanted me to quite a few things that she wanted touch on, so we'll address that. So, what I want to start with is the whole cheat code situation. How many of us have grown up with video games in the past and there was just tons and tons and tons of cheat codes for them? And that was when you got introduced to the concept of infinite health, infinite ammo. If a game allowed it, it allowed for all sorts of different modifiers, like maybe the game runs in slow motion. Maybe the game runs faster. Maybe it unlocks big head mode. Maybe it unlocks different settings, or unlock all powers, or unlock all characters. The concept of cheat codes goes back years, literal years. And for me, and I told this story to you guys when I was playing Donkey Kong, when I was growing up and I discovered the existence of cheat codes. When I discovered the existence of cheat codes, it was like, oh, all of this power. All of this power. Yeah, with Game Shark. So there was Game Shark and there was Action Replay. I remember both of those. So Hydra and San Andreas was my favorite. So for me, and you know what? And I'll show you what I was messing with too. I'll show you what I was messing with. So what I was messing with switch to this now so you guys can see, is one thing I learned is me being able to essentially create more scenes so that way I don't have to expand a browser window and then reduce my window size and then have it off to the side. I literally can just have it in separate screens, so with the press of a button we can just go right back to me being full screen and you guys are off to the side. So now with the way it is right now, it makes everything so much more seamless. So what we're going to do is we are going to look up some cheat codes. Just not the cheat codes in games. So hold on. Yeah, there were codes for Doom, Contra, and sometimes some of these games would have cheat codes that still exists now. If you were to play, like, say, an old PlayStation, I think they started to phase them out around, I want to say halfway through the PlayStation 3 era. Because PlayStation 2, you could use cheat codes to get through any sort of game. Or if you use a Game Shark or Action Replay, you could get around it that way. So even incredibly difficult games were easy because you essentially manipulated the game to give you infinite ammo and different sorts of things. Let me get chat over here so that way I can see you guys. See, eventually, I'm going to get a setup. I'm going to make a setup so that way I can just have everything off to the side. Yes, the cheat magazine. Yes, tips and tricks. I was going through this archive, trying to find the one that I had. Because I distinctly remember having either it was a tips and tricks magazine, or it was one simply called cheat codes. Hold on, let me see. Tips and tricks, cheat codes magazine. I honestly think it was tips and tricks. I'm trying to remember which one I had distinctively. It wasn't, I don't think it was the 100th issue. Was it the Ratchet and Clank one? I think it might have been the Ratchet and Clank one. No! It was this one, Tips and Tricks issue 115, because I distinctly remember when I was a kid, I drew this version of Spider-Man. I distinctly remember it. Yeah, it was this one. Tips and Tricks, Spider-Man 2 Complete Strategy Guide. Courier, it's good to see you. We're talking about old gaming stuff and chat. Oh, right. I forgot to actually turn that on. Sorry about that. I forgot to turn the chat on to the side for you guys. Sorry about that. I forgot. But yeah, we're talking about old gaming stuff, just period. Stuff that we don't see anymore. Cheat magazines that we used to have a bevy of. Yeah, I distinctly remember Tips and Tricks issue 115. Hold on. Let me make sure, because now, with a press of a button, I need to double check and make sure that it doesn't have any pop-ups like, oh, would you like your email to be off to the side here? So one's got to be careful. But no, we're good. We're good. So I distinctly remember having this magazine, and it had tons of cheats inside. I remember... Hold on, let me see if there was another one in here. I think I remember having this one too, with the Hulk on it. And if I didn't, I remember memorizing the cheats from this so that I could put it into the games that I had. And I think I had the one with Kingdom Hearts 2 as well. I think I looked into that one too. Good lord, some of these are really old. Kingdom Hearts 2 in the Tips and Tricks book, Join the Party, How to Conquer Mega Man Powered Up, Odama, the Outfit, and Sonic Riders. Like, look at all of these games. Star Wars, Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy. Ultimate Ninja, Naruto Ultimate Ninja from 2006. Destroy All Humans 2. What is that? Which game is that? Twilight Princess? Lost Planet? Virtua Fighter 5, Bullet Witch, and Izuna. All these old games. God of War 2. And then we had Transformers back in August 2007 as well. Shadowrun, Spider-Man 3, try some real web surfing. Like, there's so many things about these games from the past. One game that stuck out to me the most that felt like it had so much extra groundwork when it came to getting the whole cheat system down was Enter the Matrix. For me, I went with my dad when he was stationed in a part of Texas one year, and I stayed with him. I decided to travel with my dad up there just to see what he did and just hang out with him. And then the rest of the family was still back where we were living. I think it was like Louisville, I think. But I went up there with him, and that's when I played a ton of games. I think it was during the summer when I didn't have any actual schoolwork to do because I was still in public school at the time. So I remember going with him, and I remember playing tons and tons and tons of games. When he went out to go work, I would be in the house chilling, eating some food, and playing Enter the Matrix while I did my best to figure out the hacking minigame that Enter the Matrix actually had. And the hacking minigame for Enter the Matrix was so convoluted. It was... Hold on, let me see. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see. Enter the Matrix hacking. IGN still has a guide from back in 2012. Yeah, you essentially had to put in commands. You essentially had to put in commands like you were going into an actual command prompt in order to do certain things in Enter the Matrix, such as invincibility and infinite focus and unlocking secret modes like a secret fighting mode. So let's see. Hacking allows you to actually enter the Matrix and dig deep into the game's special features. To get them, however, you need to know how. In order to hack, you need to have a save game. If you want to get right into it, start the game, save after first movie, then quit and begin to hack. Everything in the hacking menu is controlled through a DOS prompt. I remember going through this, and I remember there was this very long, drawn-out, and very specific line of code that you had to do to get, like, a secret message from Neo, and it did, like, a whole bunch of extra, but it was just, like, so long ago that I barely remember it now. But yeah, here's all the list of commands. Beep, make beeping sounds. Enter cheats. You must first run first run the cheat program. Clear all text, quit hacking, help, login, read, reboot, vibration, super useful, vibration controller, trace kill, stop a trace program, view virtual. It has all of these different things in order for you to cheat the game. Here it is, right here. So here you would have to put in different types of cheat codes in order to learn how to do different things in the game. Enemies do not detect you, enemies do not hear you, and being able to make it so that the enemies in the game could not hear you at all or see you, but you could fight them. You could do this for every enemy in the game. You could essentially turn the game into you could essentially become a ghost. Coincidentally, one of the characters you play in Enter the Matrix was called Ghost. So you could essentially just turn yourself into a ghost, give yourself infinite focus, infinite health, infinite ammo. Not even the 8 low gravity, so your jumps were super large. Not even the agents were able to tell where you were. And just straight up invisibility if you wanted. There's just so many different things that you could do in the game. You could give yourself weapons, all sorts. It was crazy. Back then, it was crazy for a game to do all of this. And then you fast forward a couple of years, and then cheat codes are still kind of prevalent, but not as plentiful as they used to be. Then you get to the age of the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and cheat codes just start to really fade out from games as a whole. Because later down the line, you started getting games that essentially made it so that, hey, here's all the cheats. Did I get bit again? I think I got bit by a mosquito again. I was like, why does this part of my arm feel extra sensitive? I think I got bit by a mosquito outside this morning. But then later on, games started to phase out cheat codes. And when we started getting DLC, like piece by piece by piece DLC for games, you started to notice that, hey, why would we continue to put cheat codes in games? Maybe we can start selling cheat codes. And then you started to see a couple of games go down the route of like, well, there's no cheat codes in the games, but if you buy this DLC pack, it gives you all sorts of crazy stuff. Buy the ability to become invincible. I remember this because when I played Crackdown 2 on the 360, they had a cheat toy box DLC that essentially made it so that you could essentially cheat the game. Now, mind you, it locked you out of achievements and such, but they essentially sold to you cheats. They essentially sold it to you. And ever since then, games have started to really, really phase it out to the point where only a handful of games now have cheats in them. Fun stuff to do. Some games that they report to newer systems, like, say, for instance, Star Wars Battlefront 2, that still the cheats still work for that game. Invincibility, infinite ammo, all sorts of different cheats that you can get for it. Back in the PlayStation 2 days, those still very much work. Infinite health in Star Wars Battlefront 2 is completely busted, because that means that no matter how high the difficulty you play on, you could be an invincible stormtrooper, an invincible rebel, an invincible clone. You could be an invincible Jedi until your bar ran out. You can make it so that the bar, especially when you do it in instant action and you just fill up the map just full of people all at once and you became a Jedi or a Sith, you essentially became a walking disaster. And the opposing side, regardless of the difficulty you set it to, did not stand a chance. I can't tell you. One funny story is that, I don't know if this was a glitch, but one day when I was playing Star Wars Battlefront 2 back on the PlayStation 2, I think I put in the infinite health cheat so many times, because I don't think the game would allow you to save with the cheats turned on, because I tried it multiple times. But I remember using the infinite health cheat so often that one day I forgot to turn it on, but I still had infinite health. So part of me thinks that I entered in that infinite health cheat so much that the game just automatically put me into that infinite health state before I actually put the cheat code in. Because it was like and especially with cheat codes, a lot of them required button combinations, such as up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A. It was like something like that. And I think for Star Wars Battlefront, it was like up. I think it was up, left, down, right, up, left, right. I'm trying to remember the specific code because it still works. It still works in the Star Wars Battlefront games that they put onto the PlayStation 5, on the PlayStation systems recently that I played. Those codes still work. And they work with trophies. Now, some games, like Blaziken says, yes, you would allow you to do the cheats, but they would disable the achievements and trophies. A lot of games did that. However, some games still allow you to have cheats on, and you can still collect trophies. And I feel that with games nowadays, they have supplemented cheat codes for, hey, if you want to make the game easier, you can turn this setting on, but it will disable trophies. So, for an example, Pacific Drive. Good game. Need to get back into it. I haven't finished that game yet. Pacific Drive is a game where you're basically driving the station wagon through this supernatural section of the world. And there's a lot of settings, game settings, that make it so that all the drives you do are essentially ridiculously easier. But there are certain settings that would essentially make you invincible that you can only unlock, that you can only use after you complete the story, or if you turn it on, it would essentially lock you out of trophies for the entirety of that save. So it's like, okay, so then I guess I just need to complete every single trophy in the game, platinum it, and then I can turn this stuff on. But it also gives you a lot of options that essentially makes it very close to being invincible, such as settings that make it so that even if you fail a run, you don't lose anything, you keep everything. Or if you pull into the garage, every single time you get back to the garage, you get a free gas refill, all of your stuff is repaired. Or you can even tune it so that items you craft cost one material piece rather than the astronomical amount that they ask of you. Plenty of different settings that can make it so that the game is essentially incredibly easy. If you don't want to go through stress or nothing, you have the settings to do that. And we see that a lot in games now where they have a difficulty setting, especially in Souls-like. For example, Lies of P, which is also coming to PlayStation Plus next month in August. So we're getting Lies of P, we're getting DayZ, and we're getting My Hero Academia One's Justice 2. Those are going to be the 3 games that drop for PlayStation Plus users next month. So if anyone hasn't played Lies of P yet, that would be your perfect, and you have PlayStation Plus, that'll be a perfect opportunity to you. But a lot of these games nowadays are including what they would call accessibility options. But for us back in the day, we used to call them cheat codes. Things that would make the game essentially easy for us with minimum stress. Minimum stress. So it's like so many things have changed over the years. We may not get cheat codes, but now we get accessibility options that have a long list of how to tailor make a game to how much you want to go through them and how much difficulty you want to go through them. It gets better when you and your friends are writing the combos down while playing. Oh yeah, you gotta memorizing all these different cheat codes and combos you gotta do in video games and everything. So many memories of that. Now, here's my thing. I used to be addicted to finding cheat codes for everything. Here's the thing. When I was in elementary school, I think it was like 5th or 6th grade, when everyone would have lunch and go out to recess, I would be inside using up the school's ink, using up the school's paper, and I would go to a place called Game Winners. Game Winners was one of my favorite places to go for cheat codes because they had so many. Hold on, let me see. Because I don't know if the site is still up. Let me double check because you never know. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, it's gone. It ran from 1995 to 2017. Yeah, it's not there anymore. It's not there anymore. In October of hold on, I can show you guys. In October of 2017, Game Winners ceased operations, ending a 22-year run of serving the gaming needs of the wider internet. Yeah, this old place. Game Winners was the place to go if you wanted cheats for different video games, and an offshoot of that is GameFAQs, which still exists right now. A lot of people still use GameFAQs. They got their forums and guides. And how many of us have used a guide from either Game Winners that took us over the GameFAQs, and it was always the one that had the ones that would grab your attention the most were the ones where people took the time to draw out characters at the top of the screen with like letters and such, or they made it as decorative as possible before you got into the guide. For many of us, before there was YouTube guides, before we got guidebooks, we would go to GameFAQs to get those guides from Pokemon to Kingdom Hearts to Final Fantasy. So many different games that we would go to GameFAQs to get a guide on and then follow that guide. Before IGN, there was GameFAQs and the guides created by people who played through the games themselves. So many memories. I remember following guides for Pokemon Alpha Sapphire and Pokemon Omega Ruby. Yeah, Alpha Sapphire and Omega Ruby. I remember following guides in order to get through it because if I stepped away from the game for like maybe a month, you need to send that to Kitty. Game facts, like a picture of game facts. I remember following the guide because if I stepped away from Pokemon for like maybe a week or two or maybe a month and I was playing other games, I would literally forget where I was. But if I go back through the guide and remember where and see where I am in the game, I would remember, oh, this is where I was. Because sometimes I completely forget where I go in games if I don't mess with them for a while. But that's cheat codes. That was just my whole experience with cheat codes. I was so addicted to it that my family would ask me because I would print out. Going back to the school thing. I would print out so many pages of cheats that I would have like 10 pages for like one game. I know I had one for like Tony Hawk Underground. It's probably in storage right now because I believe I kept some of them. I would use the school's time to print out sheets of cheats for myself for different games. And I kind of got in trouble that one time because of one of the names of the levels in Tony Hawk Underground was a bit of a naughty word. So my teacher saw that and she says, "You're no longer allowed to print out any more cheats." So I waited until she was not in the room anymore. She was distracted. She went down to the teacher's lounge or whatever. And I would go right back upstairs and I would print out the papers. However, there was a know-it-all student who thought that, I'm going to tell the teachers you're doing this if you don't leave right now. And I'm like, oh, good Lord, fine. So I left, and that was the last time I was able to print out cheats. But that wasn't before I had an entire folder filled with game after game after game after game after game, all stapled, mind you, using the teacher's stapler. Using the staplers we had in the classroom, I printed them all out, had them all arranged by their type, all by their games, and I had them in a personal folder for myself, and I would take that to my house, and I would look through it. I would be like, oh, what game am I playing today? Do I have a cheat for that? I didn't have a filing cabinet, but I had a folder that I drew on. And I also had a journal that I turned into my own personal cheat book as well. I would look up this stuff, I would write it down, like the name, you know those notebooks, the black and white splotch ones with the big old square in the front that you write stuff on. I simply called it cheat book. And I took like a permanent marker and I colored in all of the white spots on it until it was completely black. I pretty much ran out the permanent marker we had in the house simply because I wanted it to be a different type of journal. So, and then I just filled it to the brim with cheats from different games. Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Enter Electro from the PlayStation 1 days. I had so many cheats from all of my games. I don't have it over there because those are my drawing books. But so many memories. Tony Hawk Underground, just so many. CJ, it's good to see you. So many memories of using cheats in video games. But when the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, when the PlayStation 3 showed up, that's when I started to notice that games didn't exactly have like a consistent stream of cheat codes for games. And that's when I realized like, oh, I can't use cheats to get through games anymore. I actually have to be good at them. And ever since, I just been, getting good at games without the need of cheat codes. And it's been liberating, because there's so many people who use hacks in order to be good at games, and you see them in a lot of competitive games where if they didn't use the cheats, they would be trash. A lot of people use them nowadays because they think, I'm using an aimbot. I'm using the ability to see through walls so I know where you are. Oh, I can aim immediately at your head. And you wouldn't even know it. You'll just complain. But I'll take the top spot because my accuracy is just that good. And these people make it so obvious now. I mean, if you gotta cheat at a video game in order to be good, that's sad, bro. I use cheats in games now if they allow me to, because I'm just having fun. I never take it to like a competitive sense, and I say cheats, and I mean games that still have the old cheats in them. For me, it is strictly only, I ain't trying to prove nothing to nobody. When I play Star Wars Battlefront, I ain't trying to die all the time. I just want to massacre everyone. So I turn on that infinite health, but boot up Star Wars. I boot up Star Wars Battlefront 2. Turn on infinite health. Switch to the side of the Empire that allows me to be Darth Vader, and I just wipe out rebel after rebel after rebel after rebel. And that's fun for me. I just don't take it online. That's the difference. So many people use cheats and hacks nowadays for games and then pretend as if like, haha, you need to get good, or they think they're accomplishing something by cheating in a game, getting in the top of the leaderboards. And say, for example, there's so many people in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League who you'll see on the leaderboards who have impossible numbers for how they reached it. Then you look at their skills and you see that their entire skill tree is filled with 1 million skill points per individual perk, even though it allows only up to, 20 or 40. You see so many people who basically cheat to get to where they are, and it's like, that's kind of sad, bro. I don't know why people hate users of cheats in single-player games as a... Yes, what I'm saying cheats in games for single-player are fine. They're fine. But cheats for multiplayer, and you're using it against other players who are actually trying to be skillful with it, that's not okay. But single-player games are fine. Which brings me to another topic. Why would game companies and game studios introduce nerfs into single-player games when players find out a way to, navigate around a tricky obstacle? And then certain game studios go out of their way to, oh, we don't like the fact that you're doing this, so we're just going to go ahead and nerf it. And I'm like, it's a single-player game. It's not hurting anybody, except you, who built this mechanic into the game to increase grind, and players have discovered a way to get around it. So that's something that I find annoying. Don't nerf single-player games just because certain players have figured out a way to get past tedious and needless grind that you specifically built into a game to maybe, I don't know, incentivize people to buy a microtransaction pack here or there. Looking at something called Doobie-Boft. Doobie-Boft comes to mind. I don't know why people hate user cheats in single-player games. As long as you have fun, it's okay, but I do absolutely agree that you don't do that on online games. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird how certain games nowadays, when they're single player and you're having fun and you discover a trick like, oh, I can get infinite this and infinite that. Oh, that helps out quite a lot. I'll tell you what, I used an infinite dupe glitch in Breath of the Wild, where you would have to fight a guardian and it would blow up. And if you were to take an item, oh, no. If you were to take... No. It was Tears of the Kingdom, actually. It was Tears of the Kingdom. People discovered an infinite duping glitch that can make it so you can get infinite diamonds, and I will not sugarcoat it. I took advantage because sometimes them rupees, it's not as plentiful as one would like. So I took advantage before they patched it out. And then Nintendo patched it out. And then someone else found a means of being able to get infinite items again. And then Nintendo patched it again. So, for certain single-player games, I'm like, if the money is hard to come by, why patch out? Why patch out? Why you do this? For what reason? Why you do this? Microtransactions. I know. We'll get to it. But we need to cover all the rest of these topics as well. So, another thing, and I need to go into order. So, who's old enough to have a gaming console where you would need to take the game out and blow into it in order for it to work? From the SNES system to the Nintendo 64, or even the Game Boy games that have cartridges that look like this. Cartridges that look like this. and you would have to blow into it just in case it didn't work right. Maybe you boot the game up and then it stops and it freezes. You gotta turn the system off, take it out, and then blow into it. Oh, interesting. Okay. But how many? You had to. Okay, Courier, you had to. I don't admit to anything, but there is a duplication glitch in Satisfactory that you can use to duplicate items, even limited resources. I absolutely didn't use it. I believe you. I believe you. My first console was Xbox One and didn't get any after that. I currently play just on PC, and I get it. The 64 all the time. So for me, we had an SNES system. I think it was actually, which one was the purple one? Was it the NES? NES console? Or was it the S? I think it was the SNES. Yeah. This is what my family had. We had the SNES, and I remember I think we had Mario. We had Mario, had to blow into that one as well. Then we upgraded to the Nintendo 64, may it rest in peace. And we had Zelda, we had a Donkey Kong 64, Super Mario. My dad had NBA Live 1990 something. How far back does it go? NBA Live N64. Yeah, I think my dad had NBA Live 99 cuz he used to play basketball games on my Nintendo 64 all the time. Yeah. Yeah. I distinctly remember him having an NBA Live game, and I think he also had a Madden game on there as well. And that's what jump started his love for NBA games on consoles and football games on consoles. Being 36, I've seen a lot of games in consoles. Same. I've seen the SNES. I've played the N64, PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I still have my 2, 3, 4, and 5 here in my room right now. I have a blue PSP, a Madden edition blue PSP from I think from 2005. I still have I don't have my DS anymore, but I have a 3DS extra large, which is like a Galaxy version. It's a extra large with a purplish Galaxy look to it. I've played. I got I think I have my original Game Boy, but that's probably in storage, and I lost the back for it, where like the back compartment for it. I'm pretty sure it'll still work, but I also think that was around the time when I wasn't really paying attention to how battery corrosion worked. And I think I kept some batteries in my old Game Boy. It was a green Game Boy, like the first Game Boy. And I think I kept it in there so long. The last thing I remember is seeing the corrosion on the springs itself. So it's probably in storage just with that because I don't think I ever cleaned it off. I remember owning a blue Game Boy Color, and how many people mess with the Game Boy Color and realize that you needed that little worm light that would attach to the side? I can't tell you how many nights I would spend playing that with the light on so I could play it at night because that was before game consoles from Nintendo started to get like a backlight of their own, so you didn't need a secondary attachment in order to see. So I remember playing Game Boy, the first Game Boy Color. I didn't get the original fat Game Boy Advance, but I did get this blue Game Boy Advance XP. And what I remember about having that specifically was one day I was carrying my Game Boy SP in my pocket, and I think I had either Donkey Kong Country or another game in it. I had it in my pocket, and then for some odd reason, I had like a handful of bottle caps. You know, the metallic ones with the little edges on the bottom. I thought, okay, I'm carrying my bottle caps, and I also put those bottle caps in the same pocket I had my Game Boy SP. So, being that it was closed, I was just carrying it, and then I realized, oh snap, there are bottle caps inside my pocket with my Game Boy SP. I take it out because I was walking in the mall at the time, and I took it out, and I realized that because I was moving and walking around with those bottle caps in the same pocket as my Game Boy SP, those bottle caps were slightly scratching the entire top of my blue Game Boy SP's cover the whole time. It didn't get the screen, but it was completely scratching the top of it. And I still have those scratches on there. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure a lot of my old gaming stuff still in storage. One day I'm gonna go back there and see if I can find it so I can show you guys. Hopefully I can find my old Game Boy as well. But I remember carrying it and I was looking at it like, ah, man, if only I didn't put this in my pocket, then my system would be fine. And it's now that I'm here and I'm older, I realize that a lot of the situations that happened with me and my gaming consoles in the past was because of my own negligence. First one was essentially bricking my entire N64 because I thought it was okay to stick an American console into a German outlet with two completely different voltage types. So, N64 is dead. It's dead. Then later on, put the bottle caps in my pocket along with my Game Boy SP. And then it scratches across the top. And mind you, they're light scratches, but you can tell they're there. They didn't carve out sections of the plastic. It was just like just like taking a scrubbing pad across it, like very lightly. You can see the spots where the bottle cap scratched all over the top of it. So it was at that point where I realized, you know what? I think I need to be a lot more careful with my consoles. And every single one of my consoles I have been careful with ever since. Because I was like, yeah, I don't want any of my stuff to be messed up. That's the reason why I clean my PlayStation on the regular. I make sure my Switch is fine. I make sure everything is fine because I don't like for stuff to break. That's painful. I know. I didn't cry, but I was just disappointed that I made that mistake when I was younger. That hurts. Yes, yes, it hurts so much. I was like, no, it was so smooth. It didn't have a blemish whatsoever. But it just has those light scratch marks on it now. That's my memory. But yeah, blowing into a cartridge in order for it to work right. And you needed to make sure that you weren't, your mouth was clear when you would blow into a cartridge. And then if it wasn't work right, you would blow into the console itself, like you would open up the tray, the space where the cartridge would go into. I know I'm not the only one who did this. You would open up the space where the cartridge would go into, and then you would possibly blow into that as well. This is before cans of air became so important. You would go like, but you made sure that you didn't blow too hard or too often so that you wouldn't get lightheaded. And I know for me, when I wasn't careful, I would sometimes get lightheaded because I would be like, and I would get very, very lightheaded because I was trying to do all that. But I didn't think of the repercussions of, blowing too hard and, possibly falling over. So that was my experience with blowing out cartridges in order to make sure that they were clean. This is before everyone thought in their heads, hey, we might need to get a can of air so we can clean out both the cartridge, inside the tray, the little side vents that make it so that dust doesn't build up in there. Let's also blow out all the air throughout the entire console. Let's do all that. None of us thought of that back then. We just thought, if I just blow into it, then it'll be fine. Oh, I put the cartridge in by mistake. Let's put it back in there now. That was a lot of us. Ooh, here's another good topic that she wanted me to bring up. So, who here is also memorable about the classic RCA connectors? The red, white, and yellow connectors for your games. How many people here have grown up with having those big old cords attached to your TV? This was before flat screens, even though some TVs still do them. Red, white, and yellow connectors for your games. I know PlayStation still had it back in PlayStation 2 days. You had to make sure you put the yellow one where it needed to go, and then the red and white ones, which were for your sound, those went into those specific ones. And then here's the thing, not many people had the smaller TVs where you could easily move it. Sometimes you would have the big TVs that had the big bulbous front and the big old alien xenomorph back in the back. And if the TV was heavy, you would have to switch it around and then try it and maybe hope that you could find the specific spot where it's supposed to go, because what if you didn't, sometimes you didn't have enough space to look back there because there was extra stuff. Maybe it was a TV. What is worse, I'm getting memories, was trying to hook up your system to a TV that had a whole bunch of stuff around it. So you couldn't easily turn the TV around. You had to try and figure it out and hope that you were sticking it in the right spot when you was putting the cords back there. Not only that, but they would get jumbled up with so many cords that you have with everything else. And sometimes you would get it mixed up with other things. Maybe you only had one cord and you needed it for a DVD player. And when it was time to play on your game, you would then hook it up into the gaming system itself. Now with PlayStation, they had the whole connector by itself where, actually I can show you, because I got it. I got him right here. Who remembers these colors? And there were two ended too. So one end would go into your TV, the other would go into the system you were connecting. PlayStation. Hold on. Here we go. I got it. PlayStation had these types of cords, and then it would have this one that would go directly into the console itself. And over time, you needed to be careful with this specific cord, because if you moved it too often, sometimes it would mess. Sometimes this hurts me why you bring this up, because it's a topic Kitty wanted me to talk about. But you would plug this into your console, and you had to be careful, because if you weren't careful, if you move this around too often in the PlayStation, it would mess with your images. But yeah, some of y'all, not everybody, those of you who know what this is, some of y'all may not realize that some of y'all may have grown up in the age of, HDMI cable for everything. Because that's essentially what it is now. HDMI cable is a lot less cumbersome and a lot less micromanaging when it came to the sound and visuals of everything. But a lot of us grew up with this, and if you arrange it properly, yellow was the video, red and white was the audio, and you had to make sure that they were plugged into the right one, otherwise they would not work. You couldn't put the red in the white socket, and you couldn't put the white in the red socket, even though they are both for your audio, because one went to the left side, the other one went to the right side in order for the sound to be balanced, and yellow was your visual. I can't tell you how many of these cords I have witnessed while I was growing up. Some of y'all have grown up with HDMI and have no idea about how often we used to struggle with these types of cords. They would get in knots, they would sometimes break. Maybe someone thought it was a good idea to literally peel one cord off of the other, because with the way that they're segmented, if you wanted, you could drag one of these down. I'm not going to do it with this. You could drag one of these all the way down and just take it off completely if you wanted. It wouldn't affect the overall combination, because what essentially this is that these are just glued together. It's not like if you were to take the yellow part off, it would just make it so that the yellow wouldn't work anymore. It's just they were combined together. That's all they were. But some of us grew up with knots of them. Some of us grew up with them being all over the place. And some of us grew up with multiple of these chords in one place that go to multiple different things that you literally have to memorize which chord goes where to avoid unplugging something you didn't want to unplug. On top of that, you have to add the TV that possibly couldn't move, where you could look back there to see which is going into which port. You don't want to unplug the wrong thing, because if you still can't move the TV, it's not like you can easily find where that port is. Like you would have your hand back there, and then something comes out that's not supposed to come out, but you don't immediately feel where it's supposed to go back in there. Like, say it falls out of your hand and you pick it back up again. Well, now you got to feel around the back of the TV in order to, like, I really hope this is the right spot, because you can't physically look back there, because either the TV's too heavy or it's too big to move. So you got to feel around and hope you're putting it back in the right spot. And if you somehow manage to get the TV to turn around so you can look back at it, you did your best to memorize where those ports were, so that if you needed to get back there without looking, you know the right place to go into. So much micromanaging. This is where we learn cable management. Exactly. And this is also when, sorry, I wanted to make sure my brightness wasn't too high when I'm getting all close like this. Let me know if it's too bright. But this is also when we realize that when we moved into the age of HDMI, things became so incredibly simple back then. Because all an HDMI cable needs is just an HDMI port. And if you have multiple things that have access to multiple ports, then you just hook them up that way, and that's a lot less to deal with. Mind you, you still need to keep your cords clear and everything, like I gotta do, because I gotta fix up my cable situation that I got next to between my desk and my TV stand. I gotta fix that up later. But just so much micromanaging with the old cables of the past. Kids will never know the struggle that we had to go through in order to make sure that our game would be on the TV, our DVD player was working fine, maybe we had a sound system that also had its own unique little hookup, like, say, black and red cables, and they had to be combined as well. So many cable combinations back then. It was crazy. It was crazy. Next thing. Another thing. Quality of video games. You know what? Let me pull up Final Fantasy VII. Let me pull up images of the old Final Fantasy VII and how... Let me pull up the PlayStation 1 version. How Final Fantasy VII looked back then in the age of blocky images, in the age of blocky character quality, and how we thought this was the pinnacle of what graphics could look like. Mind you, I still haven't played Final Fantasy VII, the OG version yet. I got it on my PlayStation, but I haven't played the original, but I've seen enough of these images to see that back then, this was peak. This was peak graphics before we got anything like Rebirth. Before we got the quality of Death Stranding 2, before Horizon, before God of War, before Spider-Man, before all of these high-definition, high-quality games that we get now, decades later, this was what people would call incredibly gorgeous-looking graphics. The blocky look of Cloud and members of Barrett's Rebellion and everybody. I forget the exact rebellion name, please forgive me. Kitty, please forgive me. But the way characters look back then, all the way to how they look now. Now, here's the thing. Let me see if I can find a good image of Cloud. Okay, here it is. Yeah, This used to be the pinnacle of what PlayStation graphics we really thought would be some of the best graphics out there. This is what it used to look like. And then we get to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And games look like this now. Games have this overwhelming quality that we never thought we would ever see. To the point, back then, we honestly thought graphics that we would see in cinematics of, old Tekken, like Tekken 3 or maybe Tekken 2 or old Mortal Kombat, we thought these are some amazing graphics. Or even seeing the animations of, let's say, here's another one right here. Sephiroth fighting one of these creatures. Look at this. If you were to tell a younger version of yourself that, hey, I know you're playing Final Fantasy VII and Sephiroth's in your party, but can you imagine incredibly lifelike graphics where you see the shading and the shadows and monsters look even more ferocious? Not a single one looks blocky. Everything looks as if it's straight out of a movie. We literally got to the point where things like Advent Children are regular graphics now. Regular in-game graphics. Not pre-rendered cutscenes, actual in-game graphics. Because if I remember correctly, for Rebirth, there isn't a single... I don't think there's a single pre-rendered cutscene. All of it is running from the in-game engine. So we really have progressed from how graphics looked from like the old... Hold on, let me go back. From how the old Final Fantasy looks. Like all these super blocky characters that many of you guys have grown up with. I can't say I grew up with this. I think I may have played a little bit of Final Fantasy VII at a friend's house, but my memory is so vague on the matter, so please forgive me for that. But blocky graphics, big old arms, no fingers, not even a mouth, not even a nose, just eyes and blocky hair. And then we get to a point where graphics look like this. You see the individual strands of hair. You see the wrinkle in the clothes. You see the creases of the leather. Graphics from like OG Final Fantasy VII all the way to where it is now has gone leagues beyond. Because hardware has gone leagues beyond. Remember the phrase, can it run Crysis? That is literally the concept of, okay, it doesn't matter if this can run Crysis anymore. Can Crysis run stable now? Because now we're going through a bout where optimization for a lot of games is not at its best. But we have progressed in terms of hardware and hardware capabilities. Case in point, let me get a Spider-Man PS1. If I pull this up, look at this. Look at this. This is how Spider-Man and Venom looked. Back in the day, when I would play Spider-Man 2, and I believe I still have both of these games. Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, Spidey didn't have any webs on his clothes. He didn't have any webs. He just had red and blue and the trademark eyes, and Venom looked like this. Blue. I honestly thought that Venom was blue instead of black. I honestly thought he was blue because that's how they make him look. Because they don't give him like a bluish, they don't give him like a black with bluish tint look. It was just, I just thought Venom was blue. That's just what I thought. So then we move on over to Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 1, and Spidey gets a little bit of a visual upgrade. He gets like webs on his outfit. But then we move over to Spider-Man 2 on the PS5. And now Spidey looks like this. The sheer amount of detail we've jumped from Spider-Man 1 on the PlayStation 1 to Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 5, this is literally the best Spidey has ever looked. So the progression, the sheer progression of how good these characters look from like these older games to how they look in these newer games, graphics have literally gone above and beyond. Launch trailer with the black suit. Oh, I love this game. Let's see, there's one with Venom. Ah, here it is. Venom going from the big old blue look he had before to this big old hulking monster in Spider-Man 2. It was fantastic. Just looking at the sheer amount of quality for it, it was great. So hold on, let's see. Oh, that's another one to bring up. Then go into a new topic because I want to make sure I cover everything. N64 controller. So, here's my question. When they cooked up this design for the Nintendo 64 controller, matter of fact, we can bring up the page itself on the Nintendo shop. We can pull this up. We can pull this up. When they came up with this design, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? Cuz look at this design. Look at this design. Is this not the most cumbersome looking controller of all time? See, this is my Switch Pro controller. Not the Pro 2, but the regular Pro controller. This is my PS5 controller. Lovely little thing. I love it so much. What was the intent for the design? It is both the most cumbersome and it is both uncomfortable and comfortable at the same time. It's comfortable because you can switch whichever hand you want in order for you to use the directional pad or the stick, but at the same time it's like, if I don't want to use this, then I just got a big old honking spike at the bottom of this controller. Is this not one of the most wild looking controllers that you've ever seen? Like, I know Xbox has its directional pad and its joystick switched, but Nintendo 64 with this specific design, where they just have like a big old spike in the middle, and this is before, and not only that, but there was no joystick for camera controls. You had a directional pad for camera controls. This is before we got joysticks for camera controls. This one here and that one there. This is before we got any of this. So I'm wondering, what was the distinct idea behind creating this three-pronged controller that if you put on a stick in reverse, it could turn that stick into a trident. Just look at it. If you flipped it upside down and put it on a stick, it is your very own Nintendo trident. Just what? And it's wireless too. And it also has something in the back. Is that supposed to be like a rumble pack or something? Who remembers the rumble pack from the Nintendo 64 controller? I think I remember having it. It was a red one. Yeah, it was. Wow. Wow, when you think about it, not every console back then had the option for a vibration feature. You had to buy that separate. The rumble pack for your controller was a separate attachment. Wow! You needed a second attachment in order for your controller to shake. I'm just wondering behind the design. Like, hold on. Let me see. Controller. Is there a way to look up the origin? Haha! Time to learn. Okay. Let's see. Standard controller debuted alongside the console in Japan 1996, followed by North America in September 29, 1996. As a successor to the Super Nintendo controller, it features an M-shaped design, 10 buttons, a control stick, and a D-pad. Let's see. Nintendo of America's head designer Lance Barr said that the design studies revealed that most games use a few buttons for most of the main controls, such as jumping and shooting or accelerating and braking. That's why the A and B are placed for easiest access on the new controller and why they are larger than the other buttons. They're the buttons that get high traffic. The controller has 4 C buttons on the top, which were originally intended to control the camera in 3-dimensional game environments. Because the pad only contains 3 other face buttons, the C buttons may be assigned to alternate functions. In The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, 3 of the C buttons can be assigned to secondary items. The upper C is used to call Navi for assistance, and the Z trigger is used to lock focus onto enemies and center the camera behind the player. Oh, I forgot about the trigger in the back. Because this is a controller that had just 2 shoulder buttons, and then the extra trigger was literally behind the middle one. Control stick, hand positioning. This is how I played my Nintendo 64 right here, specifically right here. The way they're holding it, I didn't really use my D-pad for anything. I tried my best not to use it because there was such an ease of access with using the actual joystick. And many of us remember that unlike the circular space, the free circular space of regular controllers now, the Nintendo 64 one didn't have... Oh, snap. I exited out of something. There we go. The Nintendo 64's joystick had like a square... Or, no, it was like an, what is it? Hexagon? No, hexes... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it was a hexagon type shape. And when you moved it all around the outer edges, it would hit the corner. So it would hit the top corner, and then the upper left, and then the side, and then the bottom left, and then the bottom, and then the bottom right, and then the right, and then the upper right. It had all of those, and if you go in a circular motion, you wouldn't get a circular motion. You would get one that would hit every corner, and it was like... So, this is how I held my Nintendo 64 back in the day. I rarely held it the way I hold controllers now, like this. It was always the middle stick and the side, simply because the left stick was way better to use. Yes, that is indeed a rumble pack. Never held that controller. You never held the Nintendo 64 controller? It was sometimes weird to hold at times. It was a weird combination of... It was a really weird combination of, this is very comfortable, to, this feels very odd. It was a combination of both. But the reason why it was kind of uncomfortable is that, like it says here, you didn't get access to all of the features within the immediate vicinity of your hands. Because if you wanted to use the D-pad, you would have to move away from the joystick, and you couldn't stretch your finger all the way over to where the middle section was in order for you to use the stick and the D-pad in quick succession. The same way it's set up here, because I believe PlayStation took a cue from Nintendo and thought, people may like to use the D-pad, people may like to use the joystick. So let's keep them both close to each other within the space of the thumb. within the space of the thumb so people have direct access to both options without it feeling cumbersome. If people like to use their console joystick, they can. If they want to use a D-pad, they don't need to take their hand off of that section of the controller and then put it in the middle to control something that should be close to the D-pad overall. So while it was comfortable at times, it was a bit cumbersome. If you wanted to use a D-pad, you had to move your whole hand off of a whole part of the controller, losing access to that part of the controller just to control something. And then when you needed to go back to the control stick, it was back and forth. That didn't need to happen. It was a lot of extra. And I'm glad they learned, because now we got this. Now we got this. So much easier. D-pad next to the joystick, joystick next to the D-pad, all within the comfortable range of your thumb. You don't need to stretch your hand over a good deal. You don't need to overtax your thumb for a whole bunch of extra. And also, what made it extra cumbersome is the fact that when you moved your hand over to the D-pad, you lost access to the Z trigger at the bottom of the middle spike. You wouldn't be able to use that at all if you started using the D-pad. So you literally lost access to the joystick. You would lose access to the joystick and the Z trigger in the back. Because it says here, this design is controversial as by its nature it generally prevents the use of all of its features with the player's hands in any one position. The D-pad, L shoulder. All right. You lose, literally. I completely missed that. When you're using the joystick of the N64 controller, you lose not only access to the D-pad, but also the left shoulder button. Because since your hand is lower on the console and your finger is on the back of it to use the Z trigger, you can't access the L button, the L shoulder trigger on the side. So you lose not only the D-pad, but the entire left shoulder button at the same time if you're using the joystick. That's the reason why modern controllers right now are so much better, because they're within the distance of your finger, or maybe you're the type of player that uses both your finger and your middle finger for both of these. I don't. I use just either my index finger to go back between them because it's not that much space. And I'm definitely not the type of person that'll use my thumb for the control stick, but also I use my middle finger for the shoulder buttons and my index finger to hit the buttons. I don't do that. I either hit the button and then get back to using the control stick. I know there's a lot of Elden Ring players that say this is the correct way to use this controller. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable trying to use my finger to use face map buttons when my thumb, which is perfectly angled to punch a button on a controller, while my fingers are it's literally in the shape of your hand. Your hand is your hand positioning. The way your fingers, your God-given fingers, are situated on your digits. The way your hand is situated, it is perfect for holding a controller. It's perfect. It's perfect. Your thumb can be on the joystick, moving it around, and if you need to hit a face button, you just move your thumb over to it, because your thumb is in a proper position to press these buttons, while your fingers are in the perfect position to hit the shoulder. So you'll have to forgive me if I see no sense in you hitting buttons with a finger that is not properly set up on your hand to hit them, because I am not going to take my index finger and press these buttons when my thumb can do them. My hand, look at my hand. Perfect. Thumb is for the D-pad. Thumb is for the X, Y, square, and circle for the X, triangle, square, and circle buttons, or the B, A, X, and Y buttons. These are your surface level fingers. Your surface level thumbs. while your fingers are for the triggers. Sorry, that kind of triggered me because I'm like, how do you play a game like Elden Ring and you're using your index finger for button face buttons rather than your thumb? It's not like you need the camera to aim because you can just lock onto bosses and enemies. I'm sorry. That was just like, I don't understand how people can play like that. How do you do it? But yeah. The D-pad, L shoulder, analog stick, and Z trigger cannot generally all be used at the same time, as it typically requires the player to switch hand positions, taking the hands off of the key directional controls. Some, though, realize they can hold the controller with the outer grips and use their index finger for the R and L triggers, middle fingers for the Z trigger, and right thumb for the right hand buttons, and left thumb for the D-pad, and stretching analog stick without changing hand positions. But that's a lot of extra that you don't need to deal with at all. When Sony released its dual analog and dual shock controllers for the competing PlayStation, it retained the original controller's two-handled ergonomics, placing the analog sticks below and inside the primary D-pad and face buttons, allowing the player to quickly switch from the D-pad and face buttons to the analog sticks without letting go of the controller. Nintendo would largely follow suit with the stock controller for its GameCube console, but swap the positions of the analog stick and D-pad, and it would persist even to the Switch controllers, specifically the Switch Pro and the Switch 2 Pro controllers. So they still have that concept as well. But that's like, while I was younger, I enjoyed the controller for the N64, but it was also extra for no reason. And I'm glad they picked up on that, oh, people may not like how cumbersome this feels, so let's switch it up for the future. So I'm glad they changed it. Let's see. Oh, that first experience in an MMORPG game, you either hated it with a passion or fell in love. What was y'all's first MMO? What was the very first MMO that you played? I'm trying to remember mine, because I played a bunch. I still got my Guild Wars 2 disc. I remember playing a whole bunch of Guild Wars 2. I expected to be in a Necromancer because I love the Necromancer class. But I know for a fact I played MMOs way before that. I think the first MMO I tried my hand at playing was City of Heroes? Hold on, let's look this up. Was it City of Heroes? No, it was another one. It was a different MMO. Superhero MMOs. Champions Online! I think that was my very first MMO I ever played. Because I remember playing it on a very old Asus laptop. And that was before I could get... That was before I had like a good... That was before I had like a good PC that was capable of running smoothly. Hold on, let me see. Let's look this up. Champions Online. Yeah, this was it. Because I remember having a dude... Wow, the website's still there? Good lord. Is it still running? It's still running! This game is still running! This MMO is still going! But I remember Champions Online. I created a character, and it was a character that could use super speed, because around that time, I believe The Incredibles was out. And I really liked Dash. So I created a person in an all-black outfit with a black old trench coat, and I had guns. I think I had guns, or it was a sword. And I remember spending a long period of time attempting to create my character and then doing all of these missions. But it was a lot of it was essentially safeguarded because you needed to pay for some extra stuff, like maybe pay for an extra membership. Yeah. Yeah, some things were limited because if you were a free player, you didn't get access to everything. You had to have been like a premium member to get access to everything. And I was like, eh. So I remember Champions Online was, I believe, my very first MMO. Never played World of Warcraft. I never played the first Guild Wars. Never played any other MMO. I never played Albion Online, I think, came out a little bit later. Never played RuneScape or any other games like that. I think Champions Online was the very first MMO I ever played. And then going across, I heard a City of Heroes, but that, I believe, needed a premium as well in order for you to play as well. So I kind of stayed away from a lot of games once they started asking, hey, you want to get access to this stuff? Fork over that money. And this was before I ever had a job. So obviously I was like, I don't got no money, so I can't play this. I don't got no money, so I can't get it. So I played as much as the game would allow me to. And then I kind of dropped off of Champions Online. And then Cartoon Network had an MMO called Cartoon Network Fusion Fall, which was when we saw Cartoon Network undergo a massive tonal shift in their gaming department, where we got a post-apocalyptic world where we seen redesigns of characters in Fusion Fall, like the kids next door. They got like a incredibly massive glow up in terms of how they were drawn. Like Dexter had a glow up, Dee Dee, numbers 1 through 5, Ed, and Eddie, even Samurai Jack, the Powerpuff Girls, all of them. Every character had like a major visual glow up for Fusion Fall. And I remember playing Fusion Fall for many, many hours. Mind you, still didn't have a powerful PC. I didn't have a powerful laptop back then. Back then, I mean, I have a Dell Inspiron 7000 gaming laptop. I'll be upgrading in the future so that way it can run a whole lot better and a lot smoother and I can do a lot more for you guys. Thank you for the support, by the way. But playing on that, I learned to deal with the fact that frame rate wasn't good, especially when it was blocky and it was choppy, like massively choppy, massively choppy, especially when there were a bunch of players on screen. And I messed around with that. I distinctly remember messing around with DC Universe Online as well. And I remember playing Star Wars The Old Republic too. I remember playing that a whole lot. I think I tried being a Jedi, but I pretty much lost every bit of progress of where I was because it's been well over 10 years since I last played Star Wars The Old Republic. So I don't know where that game is now. It's probably still going. But even back then, when I started to get better and better laptops and better PCs, I started messing with those MMOs again. I played a lot of Guild Wars too. I had a coworker who was really into it. She was a great person, by the way. Fantastic individual. She was also the reason why I was able to work at Home Goods because she put in a good word for me because you know, we would chill like that. So she put in a good word for me after I left Best Buy, went to Home Goods because of her recommendation. And I worked there, and then I went to Harris Teeter after that, and then I'm here now. But Guild Wars was one of my favorite MMOs I played because I got really into the story. I got into like, oh, there's new add-ons? You mean I can become an ascended necromancer? I can become a reaper class? And I was all like, please, yes. The thing is, I made my character to look as closely to the Night King from Game of Thrones as possible. Because it was around this time when Game of Thrones was in its full swing. I think it was like either around season 5 or getting into season 6. That's when I got into Guild Wars and I was messing with it, and I made my character look as closely to the Night King as possible because I was a necromancer and the Night King is one as well. So I thought, this would be cool. And I had a lot of fun, but I kind of fell off of it after a while because I started to really focus more on console gaming. And afterwards, when I got a brand new PC that doesn't have a disk drive, my capabilities of playing Guild Wars again became not as accessible. Sure, I could have gotten an external disk drive and just continued to play it, but I just fell off of it completely. Those were the games that I played. Champions Online, DC Universe Online, which is still going after all these years. DC Universe Online. Ooh, Marvel Heroes Omega. One of the best examples of a Marvel MMO we have ever seen, which then fell into a pit of despair once Disney decided to cut ties with the studio that produced, that essentially made Marvel Heroes Omega, and stuff that we were gonna get in the future. We were literally gonna get a playable Thanos. We were going to get a playable Thanos, because this was around the time when Infinity War was out, and Marvel Heroes Omega was still going. We were gonna, and the most recent character we got was Venom. The most recent character we got in the game was Venom. I remember they put Marvel Heroes Omega on consoles. I played so much of it. I wished I recorded footage of me playing Marvel Heroes Omega because it was one of my favorite games. Leveling up and playing Scarlet Witch, she had this ultimate which had an incredible chance to just instantly remove characters if it triggered, and that include bosses as well, with her chaos magic. It was crazy. And I had so much fun playing with Scarlet Witch, leveling up to the max, leveling up, and you would have to level up certain Marvel characters like Cyclops. If you maxed out his level, you would gain access to like a post-level progression perk that would give you even more XP if you leveled up Cyclops. So a lot of people played as Cyclops just so they could get access to that bonus. You had the X-Men, you had Magneto, who had really, really crazy powers. You had Hulk, where you could just jump around in environments. There was like real events that would trigger when you were playing it. There was just so many memories of Marvel Heroes Omega. And then when it shut down, it was literally one of the saddest days for a lot of us players. Because I remember playing as Deadpool, and you would have to earn you could earn all sorts of different skins for characters as well. I know Doctor Strange had an outfit that basically was a copy of his skin from the movies. Deadpool had one. Wolverine had one. There was just so many memories of playing Marvel Heroes Omega that I wished that Marvel looked at that and said, okay, let's make a new Marvel Ultimate Alliance. No disrespect towards Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, but if Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 did the same thing as Marvel Heroes Omega did for the Switch, or at least expanded on Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 a bit more, or even just made a brand new Marvel Ultimate Alliance, it would have been fantastic. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm kind of done with a lot of superhero MMOs. I enjoyed Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. Yes, I did. Contrary to popular belief on the internet, Suicide Squad isn't the worst game ever made. It's not the best either, but it isn't the worst. It doesn't ruin Batman's Arkham Legacy. It doesn't ruin Batman because, I mean, that's not actually Batman. That's a clone of Batman. So people still outraging because of that. Y'all need to grow up. Because it's not that anymore. It was at first, but it wasn't until WB started to make them rush stuff where we got a basically rushed ending, which I feel would have been done better if WB actually trusted their studios to make good stuff. That's the reason why we're not getting a Wonder Woman game, because they done shut down the whole studio that was about to give us a Wonder Woman game, and now that's gone. But getting back on topic here, so many good MMOs I enjoyed in the past, but I never tried everything. And I found myself like, you know what? And the thing is, I would spend a whole bunch of hours playing these MMOs. DC Universe Online, I spent a lot of time playing that. It's a bit iffy on where my progress is in that game. I just like playing it because I could either fly as a character, just unrestricted flight, and unlocking super flight where you could just zoom through the air and there you're just flying. It was amazing. And then you gain the power of the speed force and you could just run, and then when you put on the boosters you would essentially run across the water and you could jump so far because of all that momentum. And then of course you have the gadget traversal, which essentially was just how Batman gets around, gliding and using your grapple to essentially climb everywhere. But everyone, either they use super speed because it was faster, or they use flight because you could fly. So many memories for all these old MMOs. Let's see here. Finally defeating that one boss that had you. Oh, here's another one. Uh, Finally defeating that one boss that had you stumped for days or weeks. Ah, so for Kitty, she says that the boss that had her stumped for days or weeks was Melania from Elden Ring and Sephiroth from Final Fantasy. I know for me, Melania took a crazy amount of time for me to beat. I remember having 41 rune arcs. This was on stream, where I burned through so many rune arcs. I had roughly 41 rune arcs where I tried to fight Melania, and I burned through all of them. And this is before there were patches that would slightly nerf bosses or even slightly nerf magic. So the way I got past beating Melania was I was using a pure intelligence character, and then I used blood flies, which back then was so incredibly strong you could just spam that and you would watch bosses lose copious amounts of health from that, and that's how I beat Melania. I would just spam that on her during the last bit because if she hit me, I would have died and I would have failed. But Melania took an exceedingly long amount of time to beat. However, before Melania, for me, the most difficult boss to fight for a while was the Orphan of Kos. This was before Ishin the Sword Saint. This was before the Nameless King. This was before who was the most difficult boss in Darksiders 2? Was it the final? Well, I think it was like the final. It was one of these boss. It was one of the bosses in the. It was one of the bosses in the DLCs for Darksiders 2. I'm trying to remember. In Dark Souls 1, the hardest boss for me was a Capra Demon. But once I got past it after taking a 9-month break, I went back and I beat the game. Second game, I think it was the Mirror Knight. I think it was the Mirror Knight. When you fight it the first time, he just absolutely wrecks you. And if you manage to beat him, then you face him again. And then when you get into the castle nearing the end of the game, you face him again. So there was a lot of memories of the Mirror Knight from not Darksiders, but Dark Souls. Dark Souls. Dark Souls 2 was the Mirror Knight. Dark Souls 3 was the Nameless King. And then after that was Slave Knight Gale. No, was it Gale or Jail? No, it was Gale. Slave Knight Gale. Bloodborne was Orphan of Kos in the Old Hunters DLC. Elden Ring was Melania. And of course, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice was easily Ishin the Sword Saint. I had to run everywhere, popping in for every now and again to get like one hit, and I spent a long time during that session just running from him. Like, I'm looking to wonder what was the hardest boss overall for me, where it took me days and weeks. I'm trying to remember. I'm actually trying to remember. Hold on. Ooh! 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 It just came to me. It just came to me. Rodon in Bayonetta. Rodon in Bayonetta 3 is easily one of the hardest bosses I've ever had to fight. I have a video of me facing Rodon, and if I remember correctly, I spent a good half of like maybe 3 to 4 hours trying to be. You know what? Hold on. You know what? Let's do something. Let's do something real quick. Let's do something. Let me see. Let me see if I can look up like my old stream. My old stream of when I fought Melania, and then cross-reference. How long it took me. Alright, so Elden Ring on PS5. This was previously. I'm trying to remember the old. Okay, now I gotta pull up my playlist. I gotta pull up my playlist of the first time. The first time I faced off against Melania. So let me get the full thing. Let's see. Renala, most powerful staff. Kaled, more power. Forbidden Lands, Mountaintop. I think it was Mountaintop of Giants and Beyond. And mind you, the actual audio isn't turned on. So let me see. This is when I learned how to get lower and lower into the Helic tree. This is when I had to help your girl out in order for her to take out her sisters. And this is when I first faced Melania the first time. It is 5 hours. At 5 hours, 23 minutes. And I think because I kept failing. Yeah, I think because I kept failing, I had to go and try and level up because I thought maybe I'm just not strong enough to take on Melania right now. But yeah, Rodon was a whole different matter altogether. Let me go back. Let me go back and pull up the Bayonetta stream where I face Rodon. The stream itself. Yeah, facing Rodon. This was the post game 2 years ago. And I was trying to build up enough currency so that way I could buy, I built up enough currency so that way I could face Rodon. And this was a 4-hour, almost getting very close to like a 5-hour session of me trying to face Rodon, and I failed constantly. It was just, this dude was an absolute monster. And using Jean to dodge all of Rodon's moves because he has so many far-reaching moves. Like, look at my health disappear because of him. And this was before I was really trying to learn the best thing to use. I was trying to find the best weapon to use. But I learned that using the frog allowed you to essentially just melt his health with like poison rain, which he could never defend against. So that's how I managed to beat him in the end. But all of these moments of me fighting him, getting down to the last bit of health. Yeah, and that's when I got sloppy. And that's when he got me with a punch. So many hours. So many hours spent fighting Rodon. It was crazy. It was actually really crazy going through that whole entire fight. So for me, some of the most difficult bosses I faced was Rodon, Orphan of Kos, Malenia. Because all the bosses I've faced now, I've had many moments where I failed, but it didn't take me days to get through them. Because I don't know how, but I just learned to adapt. I've paid attention and I've learned to adapt. And I don't think there's any bosses that I have personally faced that took me weeks to get through. I don't think there's any bosses that I faced that took me days or weeks to get through. Like an extended period of days. Like, maybe it took me a couple of tries. Because I know a lot of bosses I would spend most of a stream, especially recently. A lot of bosses that were giving me a hard time, I would spend at least a couple of hours a stream trying to get through them. Because I know Erlang Shen from Black Myth Wukong took me a long time. It took me a long time to get through him. Then, when y'all told me to get some rest because I was, carrying on for so long, I distinctly remember coming back the very next day, and on the first attempt, we breezed through him. It was like so satisfying. It was so satisfying getting through that entire fight. But I don't think I've had any bosses that took me days and weeks to get through, though. It took me like several hours. Actually, you know what? No. If it took me another day to get through a boss, then those count as days. So I want to say Malenia, Rodon, and Erlang Shen from Black Myth Wukong were some of the bosses I faced that took me days to get through. Because if I couldn't clear them in the very same stream that I got them, then they count. So yeah, Malenia, Erlang Shen, and Malenia, Erlang Shen, and Rodon. Those were those three. Those were those three for me. But it's crazy. Gaming has really progressed from had a very bad time with Malekith after New Game Plus 6. I always had to summon players. Malekith, Mihai, I don't think you were here on the channel before when this happened. I have footage when I was streaming Elden Ring back then. This was back when I was using my PlayStation. When I was using my PlayStation to stream Elden Ring rather than my Elgato system, because at the time when I did Elden Ring, I wasn't using OBS to record all of my gaming streams through, because I didn't know how. So, when I fought Malekith and beat him, we both died. I spent a long time fighting Malekith. We both died. But before I got the "you died" message that popped up on screen, the cutscene that triggers when you defeat Malekith for the first time, the cutscene began, and it took me all the way to Leyendell, where it was covered in ash and my dude was still alive. Matter of fact, still find my playthrough? Of course, I don't delete any of my playthroughs. I don't delete them. They're still up there. Matter of fact, I will show you that playlist right now. I'll show you what happened. I will show you what happened. Gravity Magic, the final boss. Let me see. Legendary items and beyond. Was it this one? Because I was finding legendary items to use. Now, here's the thing, though. Is that the Crumbling Pharaoh Missoula? Yeah, it is. So what happened after I defeated Malekith is... Hold on, let me see if I can find it. I have something to watch after my stream. Yeah, I got an entire playthrough of me playing through Elden Ring from beginning to end as a pure intelligence character. Those are always been my favorites. But legendary items, final boss. I think this might be it, though. No. We need to go back. Was it Gravity Magic? It might have been Gravity Magic. Because I need to find the one where I defeated Malekith. That is Halleck Tree, not Pharaoh Missoula. I got mixed up.
Looks like I'm gonna have to correct something. I don't know why the broadcast just ended right then and there.
Yeah, this is when I was really relying
that's
on...
annoying. Luckily, I haven't done anything even remotely significant enough. So we're still fine. So I'm just gonna go in here, re-edit my stuff again.
Hold on. I'm gonna find it.
And then try this again.
I think it was legendary items. I just need to find the fight I did with Malekith. Not unless I did it already. I don't think I have. This was me trying to find all these different items like the Comet Azure. I'm trying to find the one specific. No, this was after I beat Malekith, so I think it's Melania and Beyond. Yeah, I think this is it because this is after we beat Melania.
Let me sit down.
Let me see if I can find it. Oh, here. Okay, this is when we get here. No, because this is when Leyendell was still in Ash. Was it Forbidden Lands? I'm trying to find the one specific to beating Malekith. Ah, here we go. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is when I was fighting Malekith. Let me show you what happened. So...
Magic! More magic! Magic with a kick! Magic with a kick! No!
This is when... Okay, so you see this? You see this? I hit him with magic. I defeat him with magic. I defeat him. We both land one hit on each other. It was enough
magic
for me to die.
Magic with a kick. Magic with a kick! No!
But I hit him.
No! Come on! I beat him! Why? What? No, 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 it didn't just give me the trophy. What? What? That's
I
not possible.
died, but the cutscene continued.
That is not possible. How? How?
Qushu says it very well. Oh, your name?
How? How? There is no
Oh,
way.
I'm glad I'm saying
There's no way.
I'm saying it
There
nice.
is no
I'm
way
glad
that is
I
a
say it
1 in
well.
a
Thank
million.
But
1
yeah,
in a million
the
type chance that
cutscene
this just happened to me.
triggers after both Malekith
How?
and myself get our final hits on. We
There is
wind
no
up
way.
taking each other out.
There is no way.
But the cutscene triggers.
Death is shroud.
And going past all of these extra cutscenes,
question.
we set the Erd Tree on fire.
What? What? The 1 in a billion type chance that. How? There is no way. There is a 1 in a billion type chance that me dying at the same time of the boss saved me. There is no way. There is no way.
And once my dude gets up,
There is no way this just
we are
happened.
now in the Ashen Capital. We're
There is
now
no way
there.
I'm still alive. There is no way. This can't be real. This can't be real. This isn't real. How? No. No. No.
And
We could
just
go back-
like that, somehow I managed to survive the final hit of Malekith. He died, I died, but I survived. The cutscene triggered, saved me, and placed me back in the Ashen Capital of Leyendell. Now, what happens is, instead of me activating the Site of Grace so I can have a quick travel point, I go back to Malekith because I technically still died, and the runes I got from him are still back at the boss. I didn't keep none of the runes. I technically died. So all of my runes are back there. So I just travel. I travel from where I am back to Malekith, and then I have to physically travel to the Leyendell actual Site of Grace in order for me to activate it. But the game counts it as me dying, so it leaves my runes there. But I actually succeeded, so the cutscene went over the game acknowledging that I died, allowed my runes to still be there, but also still progress the game. Never in my history of playing games have I clutched a win like that ever. Ever. Also, fair warning, these sessions were very long. A lot of these sessions were very long. Let's see. First one, 4 hours. Next one after that was 7 for 19 minutes because since I was using my PlayStation to stream it, there would be times when the stream would just completely cut out. It would completely cut out, and it would end my stream. So some of them are like very, very short because of those limitations. But all of these sessions were long. All of them. So yeah, that was that clutch moment for me. And for a long time after that, before we got Shadow of the Erd Tree, well, even after we got Shadow of the Erd Tree, I never progressed any of my characters to New Game Plus because I specifically waited until DLC came out because I knew DLC was going to come out. I specifically waited for DLC to come out so that I wouldn't have to worry about like, oh, the game is harder because I went to New Game Plus. I specifically waited. And even then, Shadow of the Erd Tree is still hard. It's still very hard, especially with the shadow fragments. It doesn't matter. I can't wait to see how a mage plays. Yeah, this was me entirely. Me learning some of the best stuff to have for my character in order to make me a optimal mage overall. Me realizing that glintstone pebble was literally one of the best magics and sorceries you could use in the entire game because it was one, cost effective, and it scaled very well with your overall, was scaled very well even into late game. It was still a very optimal magic to use. And then me getting my hands on Lusat's staff, which essentially was this game's version of the Elder Wand from the Harry Potter series. It was very nice. It was very fun. It was very fun. And getting Lusat's armor set with the big old blue eye of Sauron and his robes with the glintstones all over, it just added on to it. Yes, I may be wearing draggy and shaggy robes, but I will obliterate your face. Especially when I got Comet Azur, and back when they had the flask that gave you infinite magic for a couple of seconds before they nerfed it, because they nerfed it significantly. Just spamming Comet Azur at bosses when I had infinite magic and just watching them die. That's how I took out Rodan. I took out a bunch of bosses with the Comet Azur and the Flask because of how viable it was, because a lot of bosses would like to charge you. I think I took out Morgott that way. Yeah, I took out Morgott that way using Comet Azur and the unlimited magic from the Flask. I didn't do the same for Horalu, because the dude just kept moving. But it was just, there was so many great memories of Elden Ring. I need to get back to playing that because I was working on a two-handed bleed build for dual dagger bleed build. I've been working on that, and I know people look at and scoff at bleed builds, but it's like, it works, and it's fun, slashing enemies. Oh, you triggered bleed. Oh no, ow, 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 ow. Oh, you triggered bleed again, and just watching their health just drop. Did the DLC in New Game Plus 9 with level 640-ish characters with a shield build, and with 2 exceptions, I beat every boss in 1 to 3 tries. Do have to say that I did use the Mimic. And here's my thing. No one should feel ashamed for using the Mimic in this game. Using the Mimic or Blade Knife Tish. Because with her attacks and just how evasive she is, she's very useful against god characters such as, Radagon, and even against the Elden Beast. But with the Elden Beast, you need the Pest Threads because of its massive hit area per shot. So there's a lot of things I learned when I was playing Elden Ring over time. But yeah, no one should ever feel like, oh, you used the Mimic tier, you didn't play the game. Yeah, I did. They wouldn't have allowed the Mimic tier to be here if they didn't want you to use the Mimic tier. I don't know why people scoff at it. It's all like, oh, you didn't truly beat the game if you use the Mimic tier. Yes, I did. They wouldn't have put the Mimic tier in the game if they didn't want you to use it. You're not less of an Elden Ring player if you use the Mimic tier. You're not less of an Elden Ring player if you use summons. You're not. People like to gatekeep. These idiots like to gatekeep and say, like, well, you're not a true Elden Ring player. You didn't truly beat the game if you use this. Oh, shut up. It's not that serious. It's a game. What, you want bragging rights? You want a cookie? You want a gold star? You want one of those gold stars you can put on the back of your backpack? What? What's wrong with you? People like to gatekeep over some of the dumbest stuff. Don't use that character, otherwise you're basically just trivializing the game and you're not getting the full experience. I'm gonna use whoever the heck I want. You don't get to tell nobody no. Did you buy this game for me? Did you buy this game for me? No. Then why are you telling me how to play the game that I bought for myself? Who are you? Why are you bothering me? Why are you telling me how to play this game? Who are you? Did you make the game? No? Then why are you trying to tell me what to do? Leave me alone. It's like people get crazy when it comes to video games. Oh, you used an exploit to get through the game. You're cheapening the game. Who cares? especially if it's a single player game and you're playing through a single player, who cares? People get hung up on some of the dumbest stuff when it comes to games. Now, if you cheating and you trying to prop it up like you did it all through skill and you use cheats for it, no, you don't get to talk. You don't get to talk, especially if it's in a multiplayer environment, and we had this discussion earlier on. How long has the stream been going for? How long have I been going for? Feels like I've been going for a hot minute now. Has it been an hour already? Or has it been 2 hours? No, it's been an hour. Wow. Wow. But yeah. But yeah, those were some of my favorite gaming moments. I had so many wonderful moments for games. I know for me, me unlocking Rodon as a contract in Bayonetta 3 was so satisfying cuz he's ridiculously strong. Ridiculously strong. Also, I haven't played Kingdom Hearts 3 in a long time. Getting Sora to level 99 was easy because there were side missions that you can do and repeat. You could repeat over and over in order to get Sora's level to the maximum. Persona 5 Royal hunting down the Reaper was a very satisfying moment because I would level up everyone and I would get their very best weapons and, min-max their personas to the best of my ability. The same thing with Persona 5 Strikers. Just gaming as a whole has been very peak lately. And with me finishing Donkey Kong Bonanza, I feel like I have played one of the best ever Nintendo games of all time. It was incredible. It was immensely satisfying. I mean, I could boot it up right now and you guys wouldn't hear from me until like tomorrow. Well, not technically tomorrow because tomorrow's a Wednesday, but you wouldn't hear me again until Thursday. It's just that gaming as a whole has really made itself better and better and better and better. Now, mind you, there are certain aspects of gaming that have gotten worse. Like Ubisoft telling people you don't truly own your games. We stated that you're buying a gaming license, and I'm like, you don't state that. You put it in little thin print that people are going to overlook because they're more concerned with playing their games than anything else. We got Microsoft letting go of almost 10,000 people. And then recently backtracking because recently when they had their showcase, their big showcase, they were saying like, "Oh, The Outer Worlds 2 is going to be Xbox's first $80 game." And many people, including myself, wondered, what is it about The Outer Worlds, like the first one, that made you think that it was going to be a title worthy of it being $80 with its sequel? Because The Outer Worlds, I played it, it was fun, but that was it. I didn't think it was all like, oh, I can't wait to see what else they do with the game. I never played any of the DLCs. I never bothered going back to the game. I booted it up and it runs smoother because on the PS4, it just ran as it ran. It didn't run at 60. It runs on 60. It runs at 60 now on my PS5. But I was never interested in seeing an actual PS5 version of the game. I didn't hear anything about a new game plus because that game doesn't have it. I never tried any of the DLCs because none of it, frankly, even interests me at all. And I'm just thinking, okay, what is it about this game that made you think it was worthy to be the first game for your consoles that becomes $80 with its sequel? They backtracked on that because no one else thought that The Outer Worlds was worth that much. People were all like, you're charging $80 for this? You could have charged $80 for Gears of War. That would have made more sense. But Outer Worlds? I mean, we see you showcasing it, but it's like, it's pretty much more of the same type game we got the last time. And in that game was like, it was fun. It was all right. But seeing a sequel be $80 is definitely missing the mark. So they backtracked. So now it's going to be the usual $70 now. So that's a good thing. However, everything else they're doing over at Microsoft is still dumb. Because they got an upcoming showcase for Xbox. And I hope and pray that for any of you Xbox users, that it is actually worth your time. But Other than that, other than Ubisoft and its stupidity, other than Microsoft and its lackadaisical attitude towards actually making people want to be anywhere near their stuff, I feel like gaming is doing quite well right now. We got the Pirate Warriors 4 DLC, the fan voted poll that'll be dropping, I believe, week after next on Sunday. On August 10th, we get to find out who everyone voted for. We have Marvel Cosmic Invasion, which looks to be like one of the best beat 'em ups we're going to get for Marvel in many, many, many years. And then, of course, we got Borderlands 4 that's coming out as well in September. I'm going to be covering that. And then, of course, we have the Age of Imprisonment, which I have been, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, that I have been waiting for any new news for every single time we get a Nintendo Direct. Other than that, no other game has my attention right now, not even Lost Soul aside, because that game has been very quiet for a while now. And it went from being a game where it was all like, oh, this game is going to be sick, to, you know what, I'm just going to keep an eye on this game and see where it goes. Probably won't be an immediate buy, but I need to see more of it for me to say, like, you know what, I want to have this on my bookshelf in my room, along with other games, because I am very big on physical media preservation, so I like to get the games and put them up on my shelf. But other than that, nothing else really has my attention gaming-wise, but that could be subject to change depending on what happens in August. Got an off-topic question? By all means, Courier, go ahead. Because it seems like it's a good place for me to wrap up, because I also got some errands to run after I'm done here, and then some other stuff to do as well. But by all means, ask your question. That's exactly what these streams and sessions are for. Let me just move through here real quick. Let's see if there's anything new gaming-wise. Still need to watch Fantastic Four and Superman. I will be getting the Lego Game Boy set, and I will be building it for you guys. Been seeing the weather over there. How hot is it there? Let me check. Because it's been hitting the 90s consistently. When I got out of church on Sunday, it was 106. It was 106 degrees. I made a short on it. It was 106 degrees when I got out of church on Sunday. So let me check now. Hold up! When did it rain? Leaves outside my house are dripping. When did it rain? I didn't even hear anything. I don't have headphones in. But it's been around the 90s. It's been in the 80s, and it says it feels like the 90s. Wait a sec, Fantastic Four dropped? It's still in theaters. Fantastic Four is still in theaters. It literally just got to theaters recently. I want to say earlier last week. And I think it was Superman before that. Let's see. Do you think either Blackbeard or Big Mom or Rox will be black in the Netflix One Piece series? Ah, that's a question better set for One Piece, due to the fact that such a question can allude to the appearance of Rox for people who have not caught up to the manga itself. So I am in no liberty to answer that question at the moment, just in case, because you never know who may be watching. They may be anime only, and they may have no idea who you're talking about. So probably best to leave that for an actual One Piece related stream, which will be this upcoming Thursday, because that'll be the last day of July. So that'll be a perfect place to ask that question again. But I cannot confirm or deny or answer that question due to the illusions for it. 106, I'm familiar with that. How's your humidity? Let me see. It says it's in the 60s. Humidity is in the 60s. Yeah. Apparently it rained and I didn't even notice. But, ladies and gentlemen, now that I can switch over to this screen... Oh, it's so good! Thank you, Stream Deck! Now I can have these little buttons I can set for different things, so if I want to switch over to a screen that can show you guys all sorts of different stuff, I can, and then we can just immediately switch over to this. I wonder, is there a fade transition, or... Yeah, there is. There is. There is. So... I'd probably need to come up with a phase transition. Oh yeah, there is a fade transition. Yeah, I can press all these different buttons. But, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a wonderful talk about gaming and such, and we'll have some more gaming streams in the future. August is when I'm going to be playing through Borderlands 3 again, for us to get familiarized with the series before Borderlands 4 comes out the following month. August is almost here. It is almost here, but I wanted to put forth this little gaming discussion stream where we talk about everything about games. And don't worry, if I missed anything, you guys can put it down in the comments down below, and I'll be happy to answer your questions or, you know, speak about certain different things that happened. I wish you all a wonderful day. Time to watch some Elden Ring. But this was a great talk. Sorry, Kitty, you weren't here to watch all of this, but hopefully I covered everything that you wanted the topics to be about. And we've covered quite a lot today, and overall, I think we did pretty good. But I'm done for today. It's time to do these errands. Ladies and gentlemen, all I can say to you is, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. And because I know you're coming back anyway. Have a fantastic day, and once again, as always, later, peoples! Oh, wait. I was about to hit the wrong button. I forgot that I moved all this stuff around. My muscle memory is so used to hitting a button off to the side to immediately say later, peoples, that I forgot that I moved everything to the other side now. All right. Later, peoples!